Grand rising, grand evening, whatever time it is for you. So today I want to talk about heart and mind coherence. Now, before I get into the mechanism of how you align the heart and the mind so that you have the opportunity to experience the most expansive potential of your human experience, I want to take you with me into my mind. So, I want you to picture a computer, and this computer is plugged into the wall. Now, as you're very much aware, the thing that is powering this computer, this processing transmitter receiver system, is the electricity, the electrical charge that is coming through that outlet. Now, I want you to think of the mind, the brain, as that computer. It is the transmitter and receiver of what is being expelled, what is being charged from the heart, which is the electricity. It is that outlet. Now, I want you to think about how that process happens. Would the computer be able to transmit and process and compute without the power in the electrical charge being emitted from that outlet? Well, the answer is no. The computer would still be a computer, but it would not have any energy or any electricity to power and to carry out its function. So when we talk about heart and mind coherence, the mind is a tool. It is a tool, but the heart, our hearts are the generator. They are the power grid that is putting off that life-giving energy to power the mind, the computer. Now, I want you to think about what would happen if this computer, the feedback of energy that it was sending to that outlet, that is the heart, if it sent a higher frequency or a higher energetic amount into that outlet versus what is being output by the outlet. If it sent an electrical current that was larger than the electrical current being sent to it from that outlet and the energetic grid and generator that outlet is pulling from, well, that is when you would have a short circuit. Maybe the computer would shut down. That breaker in your house where that computer is pulling its energy from in order to function would flip. And there'd be a disconnect. The communication between the power being generated through that wall, through that outlet, to the computer would be cut. This is exactly the process of the heart and the mind coherence, and why it is the heart, that generator, that is meant to feed the mind in order for that coherence process to happen. Because if you put all of your stock and your value and your belief solely on the mind, and you allow the mind to influence and there's a specific word I'm looking for, and program the heart, you create that short circuit. You create that disconnect. It is the heart, which is the power grid of the body, which is the electrical generator in which the mind pulls from to be able to process, to transmit, and to receive as it does of our human vessel. Now, I'm going to branch off in some different directions within this video, and so I just want to preface by saying that I'm going to be doing a lot of spiraling out and spiraling in, a lot of micro versus macro, in order to gain a full, deep, and integral understanding of this mind and heart coherence and why it is so extremely important and what it is that we are seeing currently, out in our reality. A lot of disconnect, a lot of people who have sort of exists in a way that they worship the minds, the computer, while attempting to completely turn their attention away completely from the heart, even though it is the heart that generates and powers the mind. So, in that computer analogy, the heart is connected to this power grid. What is powering the computer, the mind, is energy. The energy cannot be seen. Electricity cannot be seen. You cannot see the electricity being emitted from your outlet and traveling to your computer in order to power it, but we know that it is there. And this is important to take in mind. We're going to spiral out here for a moment. We live in a matrix, in a society where the mind, what is known, what is seen, the science is what is believed and recognized to be true and existing, right? But that is only half of what we are. I'll say this. Everything, all things, were birthed from the very same singularity. And all things are connected to, all things that are living, that exist, are connected to a cosmic flow of energy that connects us all. That is science. That is factual. It is a science-based a science-based way of looking at things. However, that is only half of the human condition. You see, within all of the numbers and probability and things that can be mapped and that can be measured, there is also always another potential that exists, which is that exists outside of what can be quantified, mapped, or I don't know, that in which is feasible. There is what is seen and there is what is unseen, always. There is order and there is chaos. And all of this order, this chaos, this light, this dark, this mind, this heart, it was all birthed from the same singularity, the same space of oneness. Now, you look out on this planet and dualistic potential and polarity exists, and it is there for a reason. Separation is an illusion. We are all connected by this cosmic flow of energy that connects us all. But what I want to say about separation is that it is a necessary and very intentional illusion. I often speak as Earth being a school. So when you look at things through that lens, you would have to have this polarity and this dualistic way of existing, because it's all about evolution and learning. And for anything to evolve or to generate or to change or to learn, there needs to be friction. There needs to be density. There needs to be opposition. There needs to be some mirrored expression of that thing, the inverted version of what is reverted, in order to learn. That comparability is where evolution is birthed. That comparability is why we are able to recognize one or other. Without this illusion of separation, there would be nothing to learn. There would be nothing growing. There would be nothing evolving. And the entire point of this human experience is to gain a deeper understanding of the inner polarities and the external polarities of a whole, because we are all a part of one cosmic flow of energy that connects us all. And with heart and mind coherence, what I see out in the world, so I'm trying to figure out which direction I want to take this. We'll start here. Think of the universe, all that is, as one system, one bodily system, right? Within this bodily system, in order for this bodily system to be a living, sentient thing that is generating life force within this sentient whole, there would need to be polarity. If you think of atoms, anything that generates life is two polarities, and either pressing up against or pushing away from each other. That is how you get vibration, and vibration is what generates frequency, energy, which is how no thing becomes a thing, and is also why no thing in itself is a thing, because you cannot have one without the other. Now, what I see when I look out at a macro level, I see a lot of individuals who have their heart and mind coherence is inverted. So it is like they are using the mind, this computer, to reprogram and influence the heart, which is the generator. And as we spoke on in the beginning of this video, what happens when the machine attempts to influence and send energy and force frequency towards the generator? It creates a disconnect. That is why you have so many individuals who are solely connected to that mind, but they're walking around with these cold, frozen hearts. Their hearts are closed. That is because the heart and mind coherence that is occurring in these cases is being done in the reverse. This creates a disconnect between the heart and the mind. And if you don't have that energetic current, that if you're disconnected from the grid, essentially the cosmic grid that connects us all, if you disconnect from that grid, Because you have to think of the mind, this computer that we have up here is a machine. It is very egoic based, and the ego wants to maintain itself. It wants to stay the same. It is that opposing force to growth, to evolution, to change, and discomfort. The ego does not want to be uncomfortable. It does not want to change. It does not want to evolve. It wants to stay as it is. So if you think of our mind, that computer egoic processor, that transmitter receiver, if you start utilizing that as the generator instead of the natural generator that is the heart, and you start allowing for this machine to program the generator, that is where you create this massive short circuitness, this disconnect, which slowly but surely kills your generator, the heart. And so when we speak about black hole souls and cold frozen hearts and people who are completely disconnected from empathy, completely disconnected from the unseen, because if you think about the heart as a generator, it is the unseen. Science and spirituality are counterparts, but the thing is they are counterparts, and if you have one without the other, then you only have half of what is. There is the science, and then there is what exists beyond it. The heart is what houses what exists beyond the science, what exists beyond the computer, processor, transmitter, receiver, that is the mind. And we live in this matrix that worships the mind, the transmitter, receiver, the processor, the computer, which has created this massive imbalance, not only at a macro level on our planet and within our collective humanity, but within us. I see this mirrored in individuals walking around. And if you think about, I really hope you're following. I am autistic and I do have ADHD, so I do tend to kind of rant all over the place, but we will return to one cohesive place. And so I hope you're following. But again, if I take you back to the analogy of source, of all that is, of the universe being one collective vessel, one system, one body, what ends up happening is the very thing that I explained with the computer and the heart. If you have a human body that has a dying heart, that affects the mind. It affects the entire system. It throws the entire system out of balance. And so that is what I see. I see it reflected back to me in fractal to fractal, but also at a larger macro and cosmic scale. This inverted heart-mind coherence is what is causing this imbalance in what is meant to be balanced in order to have a fully functioning, healthy collective system, right? And I will say that is changing. There are many people who have figured out the art of heart and mind coherence. But for those of you who haven't, I will give you a cheat code. It is the heart, the generator, first, that should be influencing, sending energy, and powering the transmitter, receiver, processor. It is the unseen what exists beyond the science, the spiritual half of our human condition that happens first and directly influences and impacts our transmitter receiver computer minds. And when you reverse course this natural bodily process, this natural energetic process, what ends up happening is the heart gets corrupted. And when a heart gets corrupted, what type of energy, what type of influence, what type of programming is that sending to the mind? It is like a computer virus when you use the mind as the generator and the heart as the machine. When you try to reverse or invert that natural human process, that natural spiritual process, it corrupts the heart, which corrupts the mind. And it is from this transmitter receiver, this machine, this computer of the mind, that we create. So if you are following me thus far, you could see how that entire process is the reasoning why the collective manifestation, because we are our reality, the matrix that we observe outside of ourselves, our world, is a collective manifestation. And what is happening in the world is a really good indicator of what is happening with the highest measurement of humans in the collective pool. Because the way that collective manifestation works is the more individuals share the same belief and frequency and emit, that is what is. But that is changing. That is changing as people awaken to true heart and mind coherence and the true process and what that is, and how we as humans are spiritual beings and machines. The way that we collectively create this matrix is directly contingent on the way that our inner system functions. You cannot do anything to yourself or to another that doesn't directly affect the entire whole. Because as I stated before, separation is an illusion, but it is a necessary illusion that is so deeply rooted in the lesson and the test of what this human experience is and what Earth is. It is all meant, this is all meant, that these opposite forces, these opposing dual potential polarities, it is meant for us to reflect, to deflect, and to learn. And if you think of that as a bodily system, as the universe being a body, right? That we are generating life force for this cosmic flow of energy that connects us all, this whole. And it's up to us as individual fractals to be consciously aware of what energy that we are generating into the collective whole that we are all a part of. Because it's just so important to be mindful of what you are exuding. Because everything you say and do, whether it is to yourself or to another, directly impacts our collective reality, as well as our collective energetic frequency. We are truly all connected, and that can be backed up by science. As I stated, that cosmic flow of energy that connects us all, that is a scientific fact. But the knowing that we are all connected, that is something that you only gain a deep integral understanding of in the eyes to see through spirit. Because we are not just machines. We are not just one polarity. We are the whole damn thing. And so this imbalance that we see in our world, there is a lot of reverse heart and mind coherence happening. There are people who have completely severed their connection or short-circuited their connection with that cosmic flow of energy that connects us all. That this grid that we are all running, that our minds are all running off of. And those are the individuals that you often hear in the spiritual community. We call them energetic vampires, because they do not have the spiritual eyes to see and to know that they themselves, because of that inverted heart and mind coherence process, they have disconnected themselves from the grid. So their computer that they now worship and that they believe is their heart is not pulling any energy, or it's the energy it's pulling is very little. This creates a type of spiritual bankruptcy and spiritual dehydration that causes this collective, that collective I'm speaking of, who has inverted their heart and mind coherence process, to be insatiable. And because they have made the mind the heart and the heart the mind, they just seek more of what the computer has generated, which is this stuff. The money, the dollar, the digits, the things, the power, these things that have been transmitted, received, and created through the mind. They think that that's food for them. It's going to feed them. But they don't understand why it is then that those who are still connected to that grid, that are generating that life energy, why they feel the need to destroy those people, or why they feel the need to terrify them, why it makes them feel so alive to grip those who are connected to their heart space and have a authentic and naturally occurring heart and mind coherence. Why attacking, why sucking the life out of, why terrifying, why shaking and like sucking from those individuals in all the ways that that is done on this earth plane makes them feel so enlivened. It's because it is through that process that they're getting little bits of the energy from the grid that they themselves have disconnected from by reversing the heart and mind coherence. The mind was never meant, is never meant to power the heart. That is very inverted, and it creates such an imbalance inside of the human body, but not just inside of the human body, but inside of the entire collective system, that it is almost like a virus. It's like a computer crashing or like turning in on itself. It's very destructive. And I do have to go, but we're going to talk more about heart and mind coherence in some future videos. Because I think about this a lot. These are thought paths I go on quite often, and I have a lot to say, and I have a lot to share, and I have a lot that I have observed and recognized, and I think that if we can keep having these conversations, then maybe, just maybe, it will offer people the lens, even if just for a moment, to look through to see what it is that I am referencing. It truly is. We are all God's children. We are all birthed from the same singularity, from the same cosmic womb. And we were birthed as these tiny fractals, still connected to the same energetic flow, like blood, right? And we're like just these little, I don't know, cells within it. And so I think if we can open up the discussion on heart and mind coherence, it will give people the opportunity to be more mindful and conscious about whether they are emitting and exuding an energy of medicine or poison. A computer shooting a bunch of energy at an outlet could cause major destruction, and it doesn't just affect, your breaker box. It affects the computer. It corrupts the computer. The way that energy works and the way it is meant to flow, it is always heart to mind. And I think that there's a specific collective of individuals who corrupted, their hearts, their minds, their computers, and disconnected themselves from this power grid long ago, who know that the only way to feed themselves is by continuing to feed on those who are still connected to that grid, to that cosmic flow. But yeah, we'll talk more about this later. I'm sending you guys so much love to the universe and beyond. Bye.